Welcome back to Inside the Philippines. Pull up a chair. Tonight's story is a little different from the ones you're used to hearing on this channel. His name is Wolfgang. He's 61 years old, and for 40 of those years he worked underground, a coal miner in the Ruhr Valley of Western Germany, in a city called Gelsenkirchen, that most of you have never heard of and never will. He's not a young fool who got taken in by a girl in a bar. He's not a man chasing a 23-year-old half his age. What he found in the Philippines was a kind woman, a real family, a real home. That's what makes this one worth your time. Because this story isn't about a scam. Not exactly. It's about something quieter than that. Something that's happening right now, in 2026, to men just like Wolfgang all across these islands, and almost nobody is talking about it. He did a lot of things right. He was careful. He was patient. He was no idiot. And he still ended up sitting in a flat in Germany, counting what was left. I'm not going to tell you how much that was. I'm not going to tell you what happened with the house, or the family, or the woman he came to love. That's his to tell, and he tells it better than I ever could. All I'll say is this. By the time he understood what was really happening to him, the door had already closed, and he never heard it shut. This one's going to stick with you, especially if you've ever thought about doing what he did. Here's his story, in his own words. The mine closed in 2018. They like to say it was a ceremony. There was a band. Somebody from Berlin gave a speech about the future. They handed the last lump of coal to the president of the country, in a little glass case, like it was a jewel, and not the thing that killed half the men I started with. 40 years I went down that shaft. And then, one day, they switched it off, like a lamp. That's the only way I can say it. One day there is light, the next day there is nothing, and you stand there blinking. I was a Bergman. You understand? In the Ruhr, that is not just a job. That is what you are. My father was one. His father. You go down in the dark with the same men every day for 30 years, and you learn something about people that you cannot learn up here in the daylight. Down there, a man's word is everything. If he says he will hold the prop, he holds the prop. If he says he has your back, he has it. There is no lying underground. The mountain does not care if you lie. It will kill you anyway. So I came up out of that, thinking I knew how to read a man. And maybe I did. Maybe I could read any man you put in front of me. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I had Brigitte. We married in 1986. No children. That was not God's plan for us, and we made our peace with it, more or less. She was a hard woman in a good way. She kept the money straight. She told me when I was being stupid, which was often. We had the flat, we had the little garden plot out by the canal, we had our routine. It was not exciting. I did not want exciting. I had enough excitement 900 meters under the ground. Then she got sick. 2015. It started in the breast, and it went where those things go. 9 years. I want you to sit with that number for a second, because the people who make these videos, they always rush past it. 9 years. The appointments. The waiting rooms that all smell the same, like floor cleaner and old coffee. The nights. You learn to sleep in a chair. You learn to give injections. You learn the whole language of it. The names of medicines you cannot pronounce. The look on a doctor's face before he even opens his mouth. And here is the thing nobody tells you. When you spend 9 years like that, the sickness becomes your whole life. Every hour has a job in it. Wake her. Wash her. The pills at 8. The pills at noon. You complain. Of course you complain. In your head you scream. But it fills the day. It gives the day a shape. She died in February 2024, in the morning. The light was just coming up gray over the rooftops, and then the day had no shape anymore. That is the part one cannot explain to people who have not lived it. I thought I would be sad. I was sad, ja, but that was not the worst of it. The worst of it was the silence. You spend 9 years being needed every single hour, and then nobody needs you, and the quiet comes into the flat like gas. You cannot see it, but it fills every room, and you cannot breathe. I kept her chair where it was, by the window, with the little blanket over the back. My sister came once and said, "Wolfgang, maybe it is time." And I told her, "That is not your beer." I said it harsh. I am not proud of that. But the chair stayed. I had money. I want to be honest about that, because it matters later. The German coal pension is good. The unions fought hard for it. The men who came before me bled for it. I had around €1,800 a month coming in, clean, every month. And I had saved. All my life I saved, because that is what you do. You do not throw money out the window. Brigitte and I, we never spent on nonsense. So there was, I don't know, around €90,000 in the account. Maybe a little more. For a man like me, that is a lot of money. I am not a rich man, but I never had to count the coins. And I will tell you now, that turned out to be a problem. Not a blessing, a problem. Because over there, where I was going, the money was the first thing people saw about me before they saw my face. Before they saw I was lonely. The money walked into the room 10 steps ahead of me, and I did not even know it. But I did not know any of that yet. In the spring of 2024, I knew only that I could not sleep. That was the thing. The sleep went. I would lie there until 2, 3 in the morning, looking at the ceiling, listening to nothing. And a man who cannot sleep, in this modern world, he does what everybody does. He reaches for the little glowing rectangle on the nightstand. I started watching videos. You know the ones. I am sure you do, because you are watching one right now. Old men on beaches, palm trees, a voice saying, "You can live like a king over there for €1,000 a month." Sunshine, people who smile at you, somebody to cook, somebody to talk to, somebody who is glad you came home. I told myself I was just watching, the way you watch anything at 3 in the morning, just to fill the quiet. That is what I told myself. So, the videos. I want to explain how it goes, because if you have not done it, you will think, "What a stupid old man." And you are not wrong. But let me explain anyway. It starts with one. You watch one video at 2 in the morning because you cannot sleep, and it is some fellow on a beach, maybe 65, maybe 70, with a girl half his age, and he is telling you how he lives on €1,000 a month and is happy as a king. And you think, rubbish. That is not for me. That is for fools. And you almost close the laptop. But you do not close it. Because the machine, it knows. It shows you another, and another. And by the 4th or 5th one, it is not the fellows with the young girls anymore. It is just men talking about quiet mornings and warm weather and somebody to share coffee with. Men your own age. Men with faces like yours. And the heating in my flat in Gelsenkirchen, it never worked right. I would sit there in November with my coat on, watching palm trees. I looked at Thailand first. Everybody looks at Thailand first. But something about it did not sit with me. The temples, the gold, all of it beautiful. But it was strange to me, foreign in a way I could not get my arms around. And then I started watching the Philippines ones, and 2 things landed. The first, they speak English. Real English, all of them, from children up. I have no head for languages. 40 years, and I never learned more than 10 words of anything. so that mattered. And the second, they are Catholic. The whole country. Churches everywhere, crosses on the walls, the Mass on a Sunday. My mother was Catholic, the Rosary, the whole thing. And even though I let it go years ago, there was something in that. It felt like ground I could stand on. Solid ground under the boots. You go your whole life underground. You learn to care very much about what is under your feet. I told myself, Wolfgang, you are a serious man. You survived the pit. You can read people. If you go into this with your eyes open, you will not be one of these idiots in the videos. I have laughed at that sentence many times since. Anyway, there was a site. Not the ones for the young girls. I knew enough to stay away from those. This one was called Christian Filipina. The name alone made me feel better about it, which I suppose was the point. It cost some euros a month, I forget exactly, 30 or 40. I made a profile. God, the profile. I sat there for an hour trying to write about myself. What do you write? Retired miner. Widower. Likes the garden. I put one photo, me at my nephew's confirmation, the only one where I was wearing a decent shirt and not scowling. I felt like a fool the whole time, a 60-year-old man hunting on a computer like a teenager. If the lads from the pit could have seen me. But the lads from the pit were mostly dead or in Spain, so. For a few weeks, it was nothing. Some messages that felt wrong straight away, too sweet, too fast, my love, my king, after 2 sentences. I am old, but I am not soft in the head. I stopped answering those. Then there was Maravich. The first message was not even to me, not really. It was on something I had written about Brigitte, just a line, that I had lost my wife, and I was learning how to be alone. And she wrote back something simple. She said she was sorry, that she had lost her husband too, 6 years before, and that the first year is the hardest, but it does not stay that hard. That was all. No, my love, no king. Just one widow saying something true to another. She was 44. A widow, like she said. She ran a little carinderia, an eating place, a few tables in Iloilo City, down in the Visayas, the middle of the country. She was the oldest of 6. Her English was good and plain, no nonsense in it. We wrote for a week or 2 before she would do a video call, and I liked that. The fast ones scared me. When we finally did it, it was on the messenger, and the picture kept freezing. And there she was in her little kitchen with a pot going behind her and somebody shouting in the next room. She was not a beauty queen, tired around the eyes, a real face. She kept fixing her hair because she said she looked like a mess. She had been cooking since 5. And here is the thing I keep coming back to. In 4 months, she never asked me for 1 peso. Not one. I tested it even. I am ashamed to say it, but I did. I said once, Maravich, can I send something for the shop? And she got almost cross with me. She said, no, Wolfgang, I did not talk to you for this. Do not insult me. If you want to help me, you can pray for my father. His sugar is bad. That was it. Pray for my father. She prayed before the calls sometimes. Just a few words, eyes closed. Then she would look up and grin and say, okay, now we can gossip. She scolded me. You did not eat breakfast again, she would say. I can see it in your face. A man your age cannot skip breakfast. What is wrong with you? When I told her my knees were bad from the pit, she said, then do not come here for me. The heat will kill you. Sit in Germany, where it is cool. She told me not to come. Do you understand what that did? Every video I had watched said, watch out. They will pull you in. They will ask for money. They will rush you to come. And here was a woman telling me not to spend, not to come. Eat your breakfast. I sat in that cold flat with Brigitte's empty chair behind me. And for the first time since the February morning, the silence was not the only thing in the room. This is not the YouTube story, I thought. This is a real woman. This is real. And in a lot of ways, I was right. That is what nobody believes when I tell it. I was right. She was real. I booked the flight in October. Frankfurt to Manila, then the little plane down to Iloilo. I remember sitting with the card in my hand, my thumb over the numbers, and thinking, last chance to be sensible, old man. I booked it. The heat is the first thing. Nobody tells you about the heat in a way that means anything until you walk into it. You come out of the plane in Manila, and it is like opening the door of an oven, except the oven is also wet. My shirt was through in 5 minutes. Then the little flight down to Iloilo, an hour, and I sat with my face against the window looking at islands and water, the color of nothing I had ever seen. And I thought, Wolfgang, what are you doing, you old fool? You are 9,000 kilometers from home, and a woman you have only met through a frozen screen is supposed to be waiting downstairs. She was waiting downstairs. I knew her right away, which surprised me, because on the calls she was always a bit blurred. She was smaller than I thought. They are all smaller than you think. She had a yellow dress, and she was holding her phone in both hands in front of her like a schoolgirl. And when she saw me, she did not run up and throw her arms around me like in the films. She just smiled, this nervous smile, and said, "You came," like she had not quite believed it either. We did not even shake hands properly. Two widowers in an airport, both terrified. It would be funny if it were not us. I had booked a hotel. I want to say that clearly, because it matters to me. I did not move into her house. I did not presume anything. I booked a proper hotel, a decent one, near the river, and I paid for the whole 3 weeks myself, and I never once asked her to stay there with me, and she never offered. That was the kind of thing it was. Slow. Proper. The whole trip. The flights, the hotel, the eating out, the getting around. By the end it came to maybe 4,000 euro. Around 245,000 pesos, if you want it that way. And I paid all of it without thinking twice. Because in my head, a guest pays, a man pays. You go to somebody's town, you do not let them stand there with their purse out. That is just how I was raised. Iloilo is not a tourist place. That is what I liked. No bars full of old Germans. None of that. It is a working city. Tricycles everywhere. Those little motorbikes with the sidecars, buzzing about like wasps, and jeepneys painted up like fairground rides. And the smell, my God, the smell of the place. Diesel and the sea, and somebody always grilling something on the corner. Barbecue on a stick, I saw she called some of it, which I found out later was chicken intestines. And she laughed at my face when she told me, after I had already eaten 3. She took me to her carinderia. Just a few tables under a tin roof, a glass case with the pots in it, pancit, adobo, some fish stew. It was clean. She was proud of it, and she had a right to be. She cooked me something special, not from the case, and stood there with her arms folded watching me eat it. And when I said it was good, she got this look. I had not made anyone proud in a long time. I had forgotten what it did to a person. Then there was the family. 6 of them, her brothers and sisters, and the children, and the father. They had a little house, concrete block, half finished on top with the steel rods sticking up out of the roof, which I learned everybody does there. You build as the money comes. The whole lot of them packed in, plus neighbors, I think. Hard to tell. And they sat me at the head of the table like I was somebody. The father, Old fellow, diabetes already eating at him. He could not say much English, but he put his hand on my shoulder and held it there and looked at me and nodded, like he was saying, "You will do. You are all right. I am not made of stone." After 2 years of that empty flat, a whole family treating you like you matter, it goes into you somewhere old and hungry. They cooked a pig. A whole pig, the lechon, turning on a stick over coals in the yard. And that is not a small thing. That is months of somebody's money. And they did it because I came. I understood that even then. I said to Maravich, "This is too much." And she said, "No, you are family now." And I let myself believe it without asking what family meant, what it would come to mean. I see it now, of course, the way the whole evening sort of arranged itself around me. The way the little ones were brought up to say hello to the Kano, that is what they call us, Kano, from American, even though I am German, makes no difference to them. A foreigner walks in, and the whole family stands a little taller. He lifts everybody. I felt it happening, and I told myself it was just warmth, just good Filipino hospitality, which it was. It honestly was. But it was also the other thing, both at once. That is what took me so long to understand. It was never one or the other. One evening, Maravich and I were sitting outside the hotel by the river, the karaoke going somewhere across the water, somebody murdering a Beatles song, and the air finally cool. And she said something I have kept. She said, "Wolfgang, I prayed God would send someone good, and maybe he is testing if I deserve it." And then she crossed herself, quick, automatic, the way my mother used to. I did not hear a word of warning in that. Why would I? I heard a tired, decent woman who believed God had a hand in things, and I think she did believe it. That is the part nobody wants to hear when I tell this. She was not lying to me by the river. I would put my hand on a Bible. 3 weeks went by like 3 days. At the airport going home, she cried, "Finally, properly." And I stood there like a great German lump, not knowing what to do with my hands. And on the plane back to that cold flat and that empty chair, I already knew I was going to help them. Nobody had asked me for 1 peso the whole trip. But I had seen the roof with the rods sticking out, and the father's bad foot, and I thought, I have money sitting in a bank doing nothing. What is it for, if not this? That is how it starts. Not with a scam, with a pig on a stick and an old man's hand on your shoulder. I went home in November, and the flat was worse than I left it. That is the thing nobody warns you about. You can stand the cold and the quiet when you do not know any different. But once you have sat at a table with a whole family laughing and shouting and pushing food at you, the empty flat is not just empty anymore. It is a kind of accusation. So I started sending money. There it is. That is the chapter, really, if you want it short. But let me tell it properly. It did not start with her asking. I want to be fair to Maravich, even now, especially now. It started with me. About 3 weeks after I got back, we were on the video call, and behind her the light kept flickering, and I said, "What is wrong with your light?" And she sort of waved it off, brownout, it happens, and then changed the subject. But I had seen the carinderia. I had seen the old chest freezer she kept the fish in, held shut with a bungee cord. And I thought, I have 90,000 euros sitting in a German bank earning nothing. And this woman is cooking from 5 in the morning with the freezer tied shut with rubber. So I offered. I said, "Let me help with the shop." And this time she did not get cross like before. She went quiet, and then she said, "Only if it is not a burden, Wolfgang. I do not want you to feel I talk to you for this." We settled on 27,000 pesos a month, around 450 euro. Some for the shop, a new freezer, better stock, and some for the youngest sister, Jenny, who was at college in Iloilo doing nursing. Because of course she was doing nursing, every family there has one daughter pointed at a nursing degree like an arrow, so she can go to Saudi or Germany or Canada and send the money back. That is the whole machine. I understood that part. One respected it even. These are not lazy people. Nobody is sitting around. The whole country is hustling to get somebody out so the money flows back in. €450 a month. To me, that was nothing. That was a tank of diesel and a few dinners I was not having anyway. To them, it changed the temperature of the whole house. And I will be honest with you, it felt good. After 2 years of being no use to anybody, I was useful again. Somebody's life was better on a Tuesday because of me. You cannot put a price on what that does for an old man who has buried his wife. But here is what I did not clock at the time. Once the money has a pipe, the pipe stays open. It was small things first. Jenny needed her tuition for the semester, 50,000 pesos, about €800, and that was on top of the monthly. And what am I going to say? No. Let the girl drop out in her last year? Of course I sent it. Then the father's medicine. He had the diabetes, the sugar, and it was getting into his kidneys, and the insulin and the strips. That is real money there. Maybe 6,000–7,000 pesos a month. And that started coming out of the monthly and then needing topping up. Then somebody's tricycle broke down, and the family needed it for the cousin to get to work. And could I help? Just this once. Always, just this once. 12,000 pesos. About €200. None of these were crazy. That is what I keep saying to people, and they look at me like I am simple. None of them, on its own, was crazy. Each one I could look at and say, yes, that is a real thing, a real person needs a real thing, and I have the money. So, the German in me even liked it a little. The bookkeeping of it, I kept a list. I am not joking. I kept a list in a little notebook, the way Brigitte would have. By the spring I added it up, and it was more than the 450. It was closer to 700, 750 a month some months, with the extras. Still, on my pension and savings, fine. Sustainable, I told myself. That was my word. Sustainable. There was a fellow I met around then, an expat Facebook group, foreigners in the Visayas. I joined to ask practical things, where to get a part for this, how does the visa extension work? And there were these bitter old men on there. You know the type. Every post was a warning. Never put it in her name. They are all the same. Wait till the money stops, then watch them disappear. One of them messaged me directly after I posted something a bit too happy, a photo of Marovich's cooking, and he wrote, basically, "Mate, you are being farmed. They see you coming." Farmed. I was angry for 2 days. Who is this miserable Englishman in his sad room in Angeles City, drinking San Miguel by himself, telling me my Marovich is a farmer and I am the cow? He did not know her. He had not sat at that table. He had not seen her cross herself by the river. His own life had gone to rot, and now he wanted everybody else to be a victim, so he did not have to feel like the only fool. That is what I told myself. And I will tell you something true and ugly. He was a miserable old man in a sad room. Both things were real. He was bitter and lonely and bad company. And he was also right, in part. He was warning me from inside the thing I was walking into, and I dismissed him because I did not like his face. Because admitting he had a point meant admitting I might be the cow. You do not want to be the cow, so you decide you are different. My situation is different. She is different. She told me not to come, remember. She got cross when I first offered. A scammer does not do that. Except, of course, the patient ones do exactly that. That is the whole skill of it. Not that I think it was a skill with her. I still do not. But I could not tell you, sitting here, where the love stopped and the discarte started, because I do not think there was a line. I think it was the same thing wearing two faces, and she could not have separated them either if you held a gun to her. By summer we were talking about me coming back, and not for 3 weeks this time, and we were talking about a house. That word, house, that is where it stops being a story about an old man sending a bit of money. I should have stopped at the house. I went toward it, like it was the most natural thing in the world. I want to say something before I tell you about the house, because if I do not, you will think I am even more of a fool than I am. I knew the law. You hear me? I knew it before I ever got on the plane the second time. A foreigner cannot own land in the Philippines. Full stop. You can own a condominium, a unit in a building, up to a point. The building can only be 40% foreigners and all that. But land, the ground itself, never. It does not matter if you are married. It does not matter if you paid for every brick. The land is not yours, and it cannot be yours. I read it on the forums. I read it on the government pages. The bitter Englishman in Angeles even said it to me again. Never build on land you do not own. You might as well set the money on fire. So nobody can stand here and say, poor Wolfgang did not know. I knew, and I did it anyway. Sit with that, because that is the real story. Not the woman. Me. Here is how it went. We had decided I would come back and stay properly this time, 6 months on the tourist visa. You can extend it. You go in and out. And the question of where I would live came up. And Marevich said, sleeping in the hotel forever is throwing money in the river, Wolfgang. And she was right. The hotel was costing more a month than building would cost over time. The family had land. Out in the barangay, the village, maybe 40 minutes from the city, past where the road turns bad. A parcel that had been the father's and his father's. A Baha'i kubo on it already, the little bamboo house, and room to build a real one. Concrete. Tiles. A proper kitchen so Marevich could cook, and a room for the father near the bottom, so he did not climb stairs with his bad foot. And in my head, you understand, I was not buying land. I was building a home for the woman I was going to marry, on her family's ground, the same as any man builds a house. The fact that the title would be in her brother's name, Ramon, the eldest brother, because the father was too sick to deal with papers, that did not frighten me the way it should have. Because where I come from, you give your word and you shake the hand, and that is the contract. I had shaken Ramon's hand. I had sat at his table. He had carried my bag from the jeepney like I was his own father. The handshake was the contract. That is the sentence I have to live with now. The house came to about 2.3 million pesos in the end. 38,000 euro, near enough. That was real money to me. That was a serious bite out of the 90. I did not spend it in one go. You do not there. You build as the money comes, just like they do. I would send a tranche, 200,000 for the foundation and the blocks, then wait, then another for the roof, then the windows, the tiles, the kitchen. And every stage Marevich would send me photos, video walks through it, the children running through the empty rooms, and Ramon standing there proud with his arm around a pillar. And here is the thing I did not see, even watching it go up brick by brick on my own telephone. The longer it took, the more it cost. Always a little more. The cement went up in price. We need to put a wall around the neighbor's goats. The septic must be bigger for the family. The father should have his own toilet. He is old. It is not dignified otherwise. Each one true, each one right. And I am German. I am thinking, fine, do it once. Do it correctly. I am not building rubbish. While we are at it. That was the phrase, in Tagalog. Or in English. That was always the music underneath. While the cement men are here. While the truck is coming anyway. 2.3 turned out to be the number only because that is where I finally stopped. Not because that is what a house cost. I should have asked more questions about whose name, about what happens if. The way Ramon laughed and changed the subject the one time I raised it. Aye, Wolfgang, we are family. Why you talk like this? You make me sad. And I let him make me feel I had insulted him. I dropped it. I think about that a lot now. He did not get angry. He got hurt. And the hurt shut my mouth faster than anger ever could have. That is not stupidity. That is, I do not know what that is. It is a thing they understand about shame that I did not. The visa, also. I was going in and out on the tourist stamp, 30 days, then extending, and I started looking properly at the SRRV, the retirement visa, because I meant to stay for good. And the deposit on that, depending which one, was somewhere between 20 and 50,000 US dollars you have to park with them. Real money, locked away. I told myself, after the house is done, I will sort the visa. Get the house first, the home first. The papers can wait. That was the order I did everything in. Heart first, papers last. It should be the other way around. Every man watching this, if you take one thing, take that. Papers first. Always the papers first. And let the heart catch up after. We had the blessing when it was finished. A priest came out to the barangay, sprinkled the holy water in every room, the whole family there, lechon again on the stick in the yard, San Miguel for the men, the children screaming, somebody's karaoke 2 houses down, doing air supply at full volume. Maravich cried. The father held my shoulder again, that same grip, and said the only full English sentence I ever heard from him. He said, "Thank you for my son." For my son. Meaning, me. I slept that first night in a house I had paid every peso for, on land that was not mine, in a country that did not know my name yet, next to a woman I did believe loved me. And I lay there in the heat, with the ceiling fan going, and the dogs barking across the rice, and somewhere in me, under all the happiness, there was one small cold thought I pushed down. What if? I pushed it down. I had built the house. I was not going to lie in it on the first night and think what if. So I went to sleep instead. There was no single day it fell apart. That is what I have to make you understand. Because you are waiting for it. I can feel it. You want the moment I found the messages or caught her with another man. There was no such moment. It was not that kind of ending. It came in 2026, and it came the way water comes into a boot. You do not notice the first of it. Then your sock is wet. Then you are standing in it. The first thing was the visa. I had been going in and out, 30 days, extend, in and out. But I had always meant to get the proper retirement one, the SRRV, and settle it for good. So that spring I finally went to do it properly, and the rules had moved. The deposit they wanted parked with them had gone up, and the age brackets had changed, and what would have been $20,000 for a man my age was now wanting to be more, and there was new paperwork, proof of this, proof of that, a clearance I did not have. The fellow behind the glass was not rude. That is the thing. He was almost kind about it. He just slid the list back to me and said, "These are the new requirements, sir." and gave a little shrug. The shrug of a man who did not make the rules and cannot bend them. I stood out on the street after, in the heat, with the tricycles going past, and I thought, all right, I will sort it. I am a sorter of things, but you cannot sort a thing that keeps moving. Then, the Carinderia. The local government, they brought in new permit costs, new inspections, a sanitation certificate that cost money, a business permit renewal that had tripled, and for a little three-table place run by a widow, it was the difference between open and shut. Maravik fought it for a while. She borrowed. She paid the under-the-table bit to the inspector to make it go faster, which is its own cost, you understand. That is just how it works. And in the end, she shut it. 6 years she had run that place. The freezer I had bought her, the good one, she sold it. And here is the part that one did not see as part of the same thing, but it was. With the shop gone, the income gone, the money that had to come from somewhere now, all came from me. The $450 a month was already long gone. That was an old number. By then, it was the emergencies, and the emergencies had become the weather. Just the climate I lived in. The father's kidneys finally went, and it was dialysis, real dialysis, 3 times a week. And that is not a thing you say no to. That is a man's life, twice the cost of everything else put together. Then a typhoon came through, Iloilo gets the edge of them, and took half the roof of the house, my house, the house I built, and of course it must be fixed. You cannot leave the family under a tarp. Then a cousin, the one with the tricycle, a motorbike accident. The hospital would not even look at him until somebody put down a deposit. That is how it works there. No money, no treatment, and the somebody was me, by Gcash, at 11 at night, from my telephone, in the dark. I added it up once, near the end, in the little notebook. 18 months of emergencies. About 18,000 euro on top of everything else. 1,000,000 pesos, give or take, in dribs and drabs, 20 here, 50 there, each one nothing, all of it together a hole in the bottom of the boat. And every single one was real. You hear me? That is the thing that broke me in the end. Not that I was lied to, that I was not. The father really was dying. The roof really was gone. The boy really was bleeding. There was no villain to point at. There was just need, an ocean of it, and me with a bucket, bailing. And the bucket had a crack in it I had drilled myself. I did the sum one night at the kitchen table in the house, the fan going, the dogs out in the dark, and I worked out that the 90,000 was down to about 31. 31,000 left, out of everything Brigitte and I had saved across 2 lives. And I owned a house I could not sell, because the land under it was not mine, on a title with another man's name, in a country that had just told me, politely, with a shrug, that it would cost me more every year to be allowed to stay. That is when I understood it. Not a betrayal. A door. A door that had been quietly closing the whole time, and I had been so busy being useful, being needed, being a man with a purpose again, that I never heard it. Maravik cried when I told her my money was nearly gone, and I want to be exact about this, because it matters more than anything else in the story. Those were not crocodile tears. She was not crying because the cash machine was empty. She was crying because she was ashamed, and because she loved me, and because she could see what her family had cost me, and there was nothing she could do, because to her family is not a choice. It is the air. You do not get to decide not to breathe. She held my hand at that table, and she said, "Wolfgang, I am so sorry. I never wanted this." And she meant it. And it was also true, that her family had hollowed me out like a gourd. Both. Always both. I have given up trying to separate them. You cannot unmix the milk from the coffee. There was no shouting, no confrontation, nobody to confront. I just sat in my own house, in the heat, a man of 63 by then, and I understood that I had not been robbed. I had been outlasted. The country, the family, the church, the whole weight of it. None of them had to take anything from me. They just had to be what they were, while I was foolish enough to think a handshake could hold it back. And the worst of it, the part one sat with longest, was that I could not even be angry. There was no one to be angry at, except the old fool at the table, and I was too tired to be angry at him anymore. So, where am I now? That is the question, yeah? People always want to know where the man ends up. I am back in Gelsenkirchen. I came back in the autumn of 2026. I rent a little flat now, 2 streets from the old one, because I could not go back to the one with Brigitte's chair that was finished for me. Smaller, cheaper, near enough to the old pit head that I can walk to it, though there is nothing there now but a museum and a winding tower they keep for the photographs. Sometimes I walk up and look at it. A great rusting thing that used to lower men into the earth, and now school children take pictures of it. I know how it feels. I have, what? Around 31,000 euro left. The pension still comes, the 1,800 a month. That does not stop, thank God. The union saw to that long before I was born. So I am not on the street. I want to be clear. I am not asking for anybody's pity. I have a roof, German weather, and a pension a lot of men would envy. By the measure of the world, I am fine. But the 90 is gone. 2 lifetimes of saving, Brigitte's and mine, the not going on holiday, the keeping the old car 10 years, all of it. Gone into concrete and dialysis and a hospital deposit at 11 at night for a boy I met twice. And the house. The house still stands. That is the strange part. It is a good house. Better than anything I ever lived in here. Marovich lives in it, with the father, until he goes, which will not be long, and Jenny when she is not at the hospital. My house, on Ramon's land. I will never see 1 cent of it back, and I knew that the day I poured the foundation, so I cannot even say I was cheated. You cannot be cheated out of something you gave away with your eyes open. We still talk. That surprises people. Marovich and I, we still talk, most weeks, on the messenger. She tells me about the father, about Jenny's exams. She still scolds me. You are not eating, Wolfgang. I can see it in your face. And I am not angry at her. I have turned it over 1,000 times on these long German nights, and I cannot find the place to put the anger, because there is no lyre to put it on. Did she love me? Yes. I believe that. I will go to my grave believing it. Did she also need me to be a wall between her family and the poverty that was always 1 typhoon, 1 bad kidney, 1 shut-down shop away? Also, yes. And here is the thing you have to swallow whole or not at all. Those were never 2 separate things to her. To us, the Western mind, love is here and money is there, and they must be kept in different rooms, or it is dirty. To her, love is taking care of your people. Taking care of your people is love. There was no clean line, because in her whole world, there has never been one. I wanted her to choose me over the family. She could no more do that than choose to stop her own heart. So who is the fool of this story? Not her. She did what her whole life and her whole country taught her was right and good and holy. The fool is the German who flew in thinking a handshake could mean the same thing on the other side of the world that it meant 900 meters under the Ruhr. Let me tell you the one true lesson, and then I will let you go, because I am an old man and I have been talking too long. That is also a German fault. Where I come from, a handshake was the contract. The whole contract. Down in the dark, if a man shook your hand, you put your life in it, and you were right to. I carried that up out of the mine, and I carried it onto the aeroplane, and I laid it down in front of a family in Iloilo like it was money. And it was not money. Over there, the contract was not with one woman. It was with the whole family, the whole church, the whole government, with its visas and its permits, and its shrugging men behind glass. And not one of them ever shook my hand. I signed nothing. I owned nothing. I just paid and called it love and called it duty, and never once read the small print. Because nobody told me there was small print. Underground there never was any. You shook the hand, and that was the end of it. So that is my one thing for any man sitting in a cold flat at 2 in the morning watching the palm trees, the way I did. The papers first. Always the papers first. And let the heart come after, limping along behind like an old dog. I know that is not romantic. I know it is the opposite of everything. The feeling in your chest is screaming at you. But the feeling in your chest is exactly the thing they are not lying about. And that is what makes it cost so much. I do not regret loving her. I want to say that plainly at the end. I had 2 years where I was needed again, where a whole table of people was glad I walked into the room, where an old man held my shoulder and called me his son. After Brigitte, I did not think I would have any of that again. I paid €60,000 for it. That is a lot of money. It was almost worth it. That is the most honest thing I can tell you. Almost. All right. That is enough from me. Eat your breakfast. That was Wolfgang's story, and I want to thank him for the honesty of it, because it is not the easy kind. There is no villain to boo here, no con artist, no caught-out lie. And that, I think, is exactly why this one matters. Because what happened to Wolfgang is happening quietly, right now, in 2026, to a lot of good men across these islands, and it does not look like the scams we usually warn you about. The visa deposits are climbing. The retirement rules are tightening. Permit costs and inspections are squeezing the small family businesses that foreign money used to prop up. None of it makes headlines. It is just arithmetic, slowly turning against the man who thought he had done the sums. And underneath the paperwork is the older thing, the thing Wolfgang ran into head first. Filipino family obligation is real. It is not always a con. Often it is love, the deepest kind a culture can produce, the kind that takes care of its own, no matter the cost. But if you walk into it with a Western wallet and a Western idea of where love stops and money starts, it will take everything you have, and the people taking it may weep real tears while it happens. So protect what is legally yours. Understand the property law before you pour a foundation, not after. Get the papers first, like the man said, and never, ever mistake a warm welcome for a signed contract. If this one moved you, you know what to do. Take care of yourselves out there, and we will see you next time, here, inside the Philippines.